"Dad, don't leave me to die," the girl cried, but a millionaire saw it all and did something terrible. Watch until the end. Comment what you thought of this story with a score from 0 to 10. I'd love to know if you enjoyed my story, and please subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. The rain was hammering down on the asphalt of River Road on the outskirts of Oak Bridge. That grey March afternoon, Caleb Morgan, 45, drove his silver Honda Civic, his thoughts lost in the financial troubles that had been plaguing his furniture factory for months. The windshield, fogged with humidity, made it hard to see, but nothing could have prepared his eyes for the scene waiting for him around the next bend. There, tied to a signpost with a thick rope, was a little girl of just 4 years old. Her golden hair was plastered to her face, wet from tears and the relentless rain, while her soaked and muddy red dress clung to her small body, which was shaking violently. Her desperate screams cut through the air like knives. "Dad, don't leave me to die! Dad, come back!" Caleb slammed on the brakes so hard the car skidded a few feet before coming to a complete stop. Without hesitating, he jumped out of the vehicle and ran to the child, his heart pounding in his chest. The girl looked at him with large, frightened eyes, blue as a summer sky, but clouded with terror. "It's okay, little one. I'm going to get you out of here," he said in a shaky voice, struggling with the tight knots of the rope. His large hands, calloused from his work in the woodshop, trembled as he tried to undo the bonds restraining the girl's delicate wrists. "What's your name?" "Sophia," she whispered between sobs. "My daddy. He said he'd come back, but he's taking too long." When he finally freed her, Caleb took off his own jacket and wrapped it around the girl's cold body. She clung to him as if he were her last hope, her small fingers digging into his shirt as she cried inconsolably. "Where are your parents, Sophia?" he asked, carrying her to the car and turning the heater on full blast. "Mommy went to heaven," she answered with the devastating simplicity of childhood. "Daddy said he was going to get help, that someone good would find me. But I'm so scared." Caleb felt a tightness in his chest he hadn't felt in 2 years, since losing his wife Leah in a car accident. The familiar pain of loss now mixed with a deep anger toward whoever had done this to an innocent child. He decided to take Sophia home first, to give her dry clothes and a warm meal before contacting the authorities. His residence, a simple 2-story house in the Maple Creek neighborhood, had become a quiet and melancholic place since Leah's passing. The walls still held her photographs, and their bedroom remained untouched, like a shrine to her memory. "Do you live alone, mister?" Sophia asked, observing the rooms with childlike curiosity as Caleb prepared a warm bath for her. "I do, little one. My wife went to heaven too, just like your mommy." The simple reply created an immediate connection between them. Sophia nodded with an understanding beyond her years, as if recognizing in his sad eyes a reflection of her own pain. After her bath, dressed in a large t-shirt Caleb had improvised as a dress, Sophia sat at the kitchen table to eat the vegetable soup he had warmed up. Her small hands trembled as she held the spoon, and she ate with the desperate hunger of someone who hadn't been properly fed for days. "Sophia, can you tell me where you live, or your father's full name?" The girl stopped eating, and her eyes filled with tears again. "I can't talk about Daddy. He said it would cause trouble if I did." "What kind of trouble?" "I don't know. He was really sad after Mommy went away. He cried a lot and said bad words. Yesterday he drove me in the car and said I should be quiet until someone good found me." Caleb felt a chill down his spine. This didn't seem like a typical kidnapping, but something much more disturbing, a father who had deliberately abandoned his own daughter for reasons he couldn't comprehend. The phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was Valerie, his 52-year-old sister-in-law, calling as she did every night since Leah's death. "Caleb, how are you today? I stopped by the bakery and Mrs. Martia said she saw you running with a child in your arms. He hesitated before answering. Valerie had always been overprotective of him, especially after he was widowed, and he knew she wouldn't approve of his impulsive decision. "Val, I need to tell you something. I found an abandoned girl on the street today." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. When Valerie finally spoke, her voice was full of disapproval. "Caleb, for heaven's sake, did you call the police?" "Not yet. She was terrified, wet and hungry. I thought it was better to take care of her first." "Have you lost your mind? This could get you in a world of trouble. What if someone says you kidnapped the child?" Caleb looked at Sophia, who had finished her soup and was now drawing on a piece of paper with a pencil he had given her. Her drawings showed birds flying free in the sky and a little house with a happy family at the door. "Val, I can't just hand her over to strangers right now. She needs kindness." "Caleb Morgan, you're fooling yourself. This child has a family, people looking for her. You can't just play daddy because you're grieving for Leah." Valerie's words hit him like a punch, but he knew there was truth in them. Still, when he looked at Sophia drawing peacefully, something in his heart screamed that he couldn't abandon her too. "I'll sort everything out tomorrow," he promised before hanging up. That night, Caleb made a makeshift bed on the living room sofa for Sophia, but she begged to sleep in the guest room, saying she was afraid of the dark. He sat in an armchair beside the bed until she fell asleep, watching her peaceful face for the first time since he'd found her. But sleep didn't come for Caleb. He stayed awake, thinking about the strange sense of purpose he felt for the first time in 2 years. Caring for Sophia had brought back a part of himself he thought he'd lost forever with Leah. On the other side of town, in the Evergreen Hills district, Dennis Fisher paced nervously in the living room of his luxurious home. At 38, he was grieving the loss of his wife, Samantha, 3 months prior, but his pain was mixed with a financial desperation that consumed him. The $1 million inheritance she had left could only be accessed under very specific circumstances, and the deadline was fast approaching. He looked at Sophia's photograph on the shelf and felt his heart break all over again. What he had done was unforgivable, but the bills were piling up, and creditors didn't accept tears as payment. He just hoped that someone kind had found his daughter and that she was safe. What Dennis didn't know was that his little Sophia was, at that very moment, sleeping soundly for the first time in months, protected by the man who would change their family's destiny in ways none of them could imagine. The morning arrived with the sound of birds in the yard, but Caleb had been awake for hours. He was watching Sophia sleep when she finally opened her eyes, disoriented for a few seconds before remembering where she was. Her first impulse was to look for him, and when she found him sitting in the armchair, a shy smile lit up her small face. "Good morning, Mr. Caleb," she said, her voice still hoarse from sleep. "Good morning, little one. How are you feeling today?" Sophia sat up in bed and held out her right arm, showing a reddish mark he hadn't noticed the night before. "My arm hurts a little. The bad man left a mark." Caleb moved closer to examine it. The mark was irregularly shaped, like a birthmark, but the child insisted it had been caused by someone. "What bad man, Sophia? Did your daddy hurt you?" The girl shook her head quickly. "It wasn't Daddy. It was the bad man who used to come to the house. Daddy would get really angry when he came over." A shiver ran down Caleb's spine. Were other people involved in Sophia's abandonment? He decided not to press the child further at that moment, but he stored the information away to investigate later. During breakfast, Sophia showed a voracious appetite, eating 3 slices of toast with butter and drinking 2 glasses of milk. As she ate, she took a napkin and started drawing with the leftover jelly on her plate. "You really love to draw, don't you?" Caleb observed. "Mommy said I draw just like she did when she was little. Look, mister, this is my house," she said, pointing to the improvised drawing on the napkin. Caleb studied the drawing carefully. Even made with jelly, he could distinguish a large house with a front garden, a high gate, and a specific tree on the right side. There were architectural details surprising for a 4-year-old. "Your house is very beautiful, Sophia. Is it far from here?" "I don't know. Daddy drove for a long time yesterday. I fell asleep in the car, and when I woke up, I was at that post." The phone rang again. It was Valerie, and her voice carried a new urgency. "Caleb, you need to sort this out today. I stopped by the bakery this morning and the whole town is already talking. They're saying you picked up a kid off the street." "People really have nothing better to do," he replied, watching Sophia, who was now playing with a rag doll she'd found in the guest room closet. "Listen to me. I've worked at the county clerk's office for 20 years, and I know how these things work. If you don't report this to the authorities today, you could be charged with kidnapping. I'm coming over now." Before he could protest, Valerie hung up. Caleb sighed, knowing he would have to face not only the authorities, but also the judgment of his sister-in-law, who always questioned his decisions. An hour later, Valerie knocked on the door with her usual determined posture. Tall and with neatly coiffed grey hair, she entered the house like a whirlwind of efficiency and concern. "Where's the child?" she asked, looking around. "In the backyard, playing." Caleb answered, pointing to the kitchen window. Valerie watched Sophia through the glass. The girl had found some of Leah's old toys in the shed and was playing quietly with a porcelain doll, whispering to it as if it were answering back. "My God, Caleb, she's so little!" Valerie murmured, and for the first time her voice lost its usual rigidity. "She is. And she was tied to a post yesterday, shivering from cold and fear." Valerie continued watching the girl, who was now combing the doll's hair with extreme care. There was something in the gentleness of Sophia's gestures that touched a sensitive spot in the heart of the woman who had never had children. "She reminds me of Leah when she was a child," Valerie said softly. "The same concentration, the same delicacy." Caleb was surprised by the change in his sister-in-law's tone. "Do you think I'm wrong to be taking care of her?" "I don't know anymore, Caleb. Yesterday I thought you were being impulsive, but seeing her there, how could anyone abandon a child like that?" At that moment, Sophia looked through the window and waved at them with a radiant smile. Valerie waved back, and Caleb saw something break inside her. "Let's go talk to her," Valerie decided. In the backyard, Sophia proudly showed off her new porcelain friend. "Look, Grandma, this is Clara. She was very lonely in the shed, so I brought her out to play." Valerie swallowed hard at being called Grandma. "She's beautiful, sweetie. You take very good care of her." "Now, Mommy always said it's important to take care of the things that are important to us," Sophia replied, adjusting the doll's dress. "Was your mommy a special person?" Valerie asked, sitting on the grass next to the girl. Sophia's eyes filled with tears, but she fought not to cry. "Mommy was the most beautiful person in the world. She sang me to sleep and drew pictures with me, but she got very sick and went to heaven." "And your daddy, did he take good care of you?" Sophia hesitated, nervously playing with the doll's hair. "Daddy got really sad when Mommy went away. He cried a lot and couldn't cook right. Sometimes he forgot to give me a bath." Valerie exchanged a meaningful look with Caleb. It was becoming clear that the situation at home wasn't good for the child, even before the abandonment. "Sophia, do you remember the name of your street? Or a place near your house?" Caleb asked gently. The girl stopped playing and closed her eyes, concentrating. "There's a bakery Mommy used to take me to. The man there always gave me a free cookie. And there's a big church with bells that rang on Sunday. Do you remember the name of the bakery?" "The Cast de Brighton," she frowned, trying to remember. Joe's Bakery." Caleb knew at least 3 bakeries with that name in Oakbridge, but it was a start. He decided to investigate discreetly, without involving the authorities just yet. Valerie, could you stay with Sophia this afternoon? I need to take care of some problems at the factory. Of course, she replied, surprising herself with the quickness of her response. We can bake cookies together. Sophia's eyes lit up with joy. You know how to make cookies, Grandma Val. I do, sweetie, and you're going to help me. Caleb left the house with a strange feeling. Seeing Valerie interact so lovingly with Sophia sparked a hope in him that he hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe he wasn't alone in this unexpected responsibility. His first stop was Joe's Bakery in the center of town. The owner, Mr. Antonio, had known Caleb for years. Antonio, do you remember a little blonde girl who used to come in here with her mother? The girl is about 4 years old. Mr. Antonio scratched his head. Blonde, 4 years old. A lot of people come in here, Caleb, but wait a minute. He paused, thoughtful. You're not talking about Samantha's daughter, are you? That elegant woman who died a few months ago? Caleb's heart sped up. Samantha who? Samantha Fisher. A tragedy. Died in a terrible accident. Left behind her husband and little girl. By the way, you know there's a strange situation with that family. What kind of situation? Mr. Antonio looked around to make sure there were no other customers listening. Dennis, her husband, has been telling people that the daughter was taken in by distant relatives right after the funeral. But yesterday he came in here asking if anyone had seen a lost child. Caleb felt a knot in his stomach. Did he say anything specific about the child? He said she was a small blonde girl who might be scared and lost. He seemed desperate, but also, I don't know, there was something strange about him. Leaving the bakery with more questions than answers, Caleb decided to investigate the Evergreen Hills district, where the most expensive houses in the city were located. If Sophia had drawn a large house with a garden, it was likely she lived in a wealthy area. Driving through the tree-lined streets of the neighborhood, he looked for houses that resembled the girl's drawing. That's when he spotted a property that made his heart stop. A 2-story house with a front garden, a high iron gate, and a leafy tree on the right side, exactly as Sophia had drawn. He parked in front and watched the house for a few minutes. The curtains were drawn, but there was a black car in the driveway. He decided to knock on the door. A man of about 40, thin and with deep dark circles under his eyes, answered. His hair was disheveled and his clothes were rumpled. "Can I help you?" the man asked in a tired voice. "Sorry to bother you. My name is Caleb Morgan. I found a child yesterday and I'm trying to locate her family." The man instantly turned pale. His hands began to tremble and he gripped the doorframe tightly. What kind of child?" he asked in a shaky voice. "A small girl, blonde, about 4 years old. She drew a house that looks a lot like this one." Dennis Fisher felt as if the ground was opening up beneath his feet. The man standing before him was the one who had found Sophia. His mind raced, trying to come up with a response that wouldn't reveal the terrible truth of what he had done. Dennis Fisher struggled to maintain his composure as he faced the man who had found his daughter. His heart was beating so loudly he was sure Caleb could hear it. How could he explain that he was looking for a child he himself had abandoned? I'm a private investigator," Dennis lied, his voice faltering slightly. "I'm looking for a missing girl. The family hired me to find her." Caleb studied the man's face, noticing the excessive nervousness, the trembling hands and the sweat forming on his brow despite the mild weather. "That's strange. The child I found said her father left her somewhere and promised to come back." Dennis's blood ran cold. Sophia had talked about him. "Children. They sometimes get things mixed up when they're scared," he said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Where did you find her exactly?" "Tied to a post on River Road. Someone left her there deliberately." Dennis feigned surprise, but internally he felt the crushing weight of his guilt. Seeing the look of horror on Caleb's face made him realize the monstrosity of what he had done to his own daughter. My God, what a terrible situation. Is the child okay? Where is she now? She's safe, Caleb replied, deliberately vague. Something about this man deeply unsettled him. Could you give me more details about the case? The family's name when she disappeared? Dennis realized he was being tested. I can't reveal too many details. Client confidentiality, you understand. I understand. Well, if it really is the same child, I can contact you later. Yes, of course, Dennis said hastily, pulling an old business card from his pocket and scribbling a phone number on it. Any information would be very valuable. Caleb took the card and said goodbye, but he continued to watch the house in his rearview mirror as he drove away. He saw Dennis close the door quickly, and the curtains of an upstairs window moved slightly, as if someone were spying. Something was very wrong with this situation. When he got home, he found a scene that warmed his heart. Valerie and Sophia were in the kitchen, covered in flour, laughing as they made cookies. The girl was wearing an improvised apron made from a dish towel and had flour on her nose. "Mr. Caleb, look how many cookies Grandma Val taught me to make!" Sophia exclaimed, running to hug his legs. Valerie smiled, a rare sight. She's an excellent helper, very careful and attentive. And she told me stories about Aunt Leah when she was little, Sophia added, returning to the counter where the cookies were cooling. Aunt Leah liked to make cookies too. Caleb felt a pang in his chest, hearing his wife's name. Valerie told you about Leah? She said Aunt Leah was very kind and took care of the plants in the yard, just like my mommy. Valerie approached Caleb and whispered, I talked with her a lot today. Caleb, this child has been through some very difficult things. She told me her father drank a lot after her mother died, and that he would sometimes yell at her. Did she say anything else? She said a man used to come to the house who made her father very nervous, and that the day before yesterday, her father cried and said he was going to do something very hard, but that it was for her mommy. Caleb told Valerie about his visit to the Evergreen Hills district and the strange encounter with the supposed investigator. Val, I'm sure that man was lying. He knew too many details about where I found Sophia. Do you think he could be her father? And if he is, he deliberately abandoned his own daughter for some reason we can't understand. Valerie looked at Sophia, who was now drawing on a piece of paper at the kitchen table. Her drawings always showed the same thing: a happy family, a big house, and birds flying free. Caleb, if this man really is her father and he did what you suspect, we can't just give Sophia back to him. I know, but I can't keep her indefinitely without resolving the legal situation either. That afternoon, while Sophia napped on the couch after lunch, Valerie made a confession that surprised Caleb. You know, I always wanted to have children. I tried for years with my late husband, but we never could. Taking care of Sophia today reminded me of the void I've always felt. She has a special way of touching people's hearts, Caleb agreed, stroking the sleeping girl's hair. Caleb, promise me you won't make any rash decisions about her. If her father really abandoned her, she needs protection. I promise, Val, but I need to find out the truth first. Late that afternoon, after Valerie had gone home, Caleb decided to have a serious talk with Sophia. He sat beside her on the couch and picked up one of her drawings. Sophia, is this drawing of your house? Yes, mister. It's where I lived with Mommy and Daddy before Mommy got sick. Do you remember your father's name? The girl hesitated, biting her lower lip. Daddy said I couldn't tell anyone his name, that it would cause trouble. What kind of trouble? I don't know. He was very scared yesterday. He cried a lot and said I had to be a brave girl. Caleb felt anger rising in his chest. What kind of father would put a 4-year-old child in this situation? Sophia, do you feel safe here with me and Grandma Val? The girl's eyes lit up. "I do, Mr. Caleb. You're very nice to me, just like Mommy was. And what if I told you that maybe you could stay here with us for a while?" "Really?" she asked, jumping with joy. "I can take care of the cookies with Grandma Val and help you in the workshop." Caleb smiled, but his heart was heavy. He didn't know how, but he would find a way to protect this child, even if it meant facing legal consequences. That night, after Sophia fell asleep, Caleb called his old lawyer, Robert Miller. He explained the whole situation, from finding the child to his suspicions about the supposed investigator. "Caleb, this is a very delicate situation," Robert said, after hearing everything. "If your suspicions are correct and the father deliberately abandoned the child, that's child abandonment. But you also need to regularize her situation as soon as possible. What do you suggest?" "I need more evidence before we involve the authorities. If we can prove there was intentional abandonment, it will be easier to protect the child." "Do you have the address of this supposed investigator?" "I have the address of the house Sophia drew. It's in Evergreen Hills. I'll do some discreet investigating. In the meantime, document everything, the conditions you found the child in, the things she's told you, everything." Meanwhile, in the Evergreen Hills district, Dennis couldn't stop pacing around the empty house. The encounter with Caleb had awakened a mixture of relief and terror in him. Relief because Sophia was alive and apparently well cared for. Terror because his lie could be discovered at any moment. He looked at Samantha's portrait on the shelf and whispered, "Forgive me, my love. I didn't know what else to do." The phone rang. It was his lawyer, Mr. Morris. "Dennis, I need an answer about the inheritance documentation. The deadline is running out." I'm still gathering the necessary documents," Dennis lied. "Remember that without proof that your daughter is in a vulnerable situation, we won't be able to access the emergency fund Samantha left." After hanging up, Dennis realized he was trapped in his own web. To access Samantha's inheritance, he needed to prove Sophia was in danger. But now that she was being cared for by Caleb, how could he justify the situation without admitting his guilt? He decided he needed to act quickly. The next day, he would call Caleb, pretending to have discovered information about the child's family. Maybe he could still get Sophia back and make the situation seem like a misunderstanding. What Dennis didn't know was that his lies were about to unravel in a way that would change everything forever. And that Caleb, moved by the growing love he felt for Sophia, was prepared to fight for her in a way he had never imagined he was capable of. The morning of the third day brought a phone call that would change everything. Caleb was preparing breakfast when the phone rang. On the other end of the line, Dennis's nervous voice tried to sound professional. "Mr. Morgan, this is the investigator you spoke with yesterday. I have news about the child's case." Caleb motioned for Sophia, who was playing in the yard, to stay there. "What kind of news?" "I've spoken with the family, and they would very much like to be reunited with the girl as soon as possible. They're desperate. Could we arrange a meeting today?" "That's strange," Caleb said deliberately. "Yesterday you couldn't give details because of confidentiality, and today you want to set up a meeting." Dennis swallowed hard. He hadn't thought of that inconsistency. "It's just that the situation has changed. The family has decided to be flexible with the confidentiality rules because of the urgency." "I see. And where would this meeting be?" "At the Central Square in Oakbridge, at 2 in the afternoon. Please bring the child." Caleb hung up the phone with a bad feeling in his stomach. This definitely didn't feel right. A professional investigator would never arrange a meeting in a public place to return a supposedly kidnapped child. He decided to call Robert immediately. "Robert," he called. "He wants to meet today to return Sophia to the family." "Caleb, this confirms our suspicions. A legitimate investigator would involve the authorities. Don't go to that meeting. But if I don't go, he might suspect we've discovered something. Then we'll do it differently. I'll go with you, but without the child. Leave Sophia with your sister-in-law and we'll confront him. Meanwhile, Valerie arrived for another day of caring for Sophia. Since meeting the girl, something had changed in her routine. She woke up earlier, chose more colorful clothes, and felt an energy she hadn't experienced in years. "Grandma Val!" Sophia shouted, running to hug her. "Did you bring more stories about Aunt Leah?" "I did, my dear. And I also brought paint for you to make colorful drawings." Sophia clapped her hands with joy, but Valerie noticed that Caleb was tense. Did something happen? He told her about Dennis's call and their plans for the afternoon. "Val, I need you to keep Sophia at home today. Don't let her leave for any reason." "Do you think there could be danger?" "I don't know, but I'm not going to risk it." Valerie nodded, instinctively protective. "Don't worry. We'll do activities inside all day." At 2 in the afternoon, Caleb and Robert were at the central square, watching a visibly nervous Dennis arrive. He was constantly looking around, searching for Caleb and the child. "Where's the girl?" Dennis asked, as Caleb approached, accompanied by Robert. "This is my lawyer, Mr. Robert Miller," Caleb said, ignoring the question. "We thought it best for him to be present for this conversation." Dennis's face went pale. "A lawyer? Why a lawyer?" Robert took control of the situation. "Mr. Fisher. Dennis Fisher," he replied automatically, before realizing he had revealed his real name. "Mr. Fisher, how interesting. Yesterday you introduced yourself as a private investigator, but you just gave your real name. Do investigators often use pseudonyms?" Dennis felt his blood run cold. He had fallen into a simple trap. I can use my real name when necessary." "Of course," Robert said with a cold smile. "And where is your private investigator's certificate? Your professional license?" It's in the car." "How convenient. And the family that hired you? What's their name?" Dennis began to sweat profusely. Every question was a trap, and he was sinking deeper and deeper. "I can't reveal." "Mr. Fisher," Caleb interrupted, "do you happen to know a woman named Samantha? Samantha Fisher?" Dennis's reaction was instantaneous and devastating. His eyes filled with tears and his shoulders slumped as if carrying the weight of the world. How did you know?" "The child I found drew a house in the Evergreen Hills district, the same house where you live. She talks about a mother who went to heaven and a father who cried a lot." Dennis collapsed onto a park bench, covering his face with his hands. "My God, what have I done? What have I done to my daughter?" Robert and Caleb exchanged glances. The confession was coming naturally. "Samantha died 3 months ago in an accident," Dennis sobbed. "I was lost. I couldn't take care of Sophia properly. The bills were piling up. I lost my job. I started drinking." "And then you decided to abandon your daughter?" Caleb asked, struggling to control the anger in his voice. "It wasn't like that. I never wanted to abandon her. But Samantha left an inheritance that can only be accessed in emergencies. The lawyer said I could only get the money if I proved Sophia was in danger." Robert frowned. "What kind of inheritance has those conditions?" "Samantha was very careful. She set up a trust fund to protect the money until Sophia turns 18, but there's a clause for emergency situations. If Sophia were in real danger, I could access the money to protect her." Caleb felt sick to his stomach. "So you put your own daughter in danger to justify accessing the money?" "I was desperate. I was 3 months behind on rent. I had no way to buy food. I thought someone good would find her quickly, and I could pretend she'd been kidnapped." "You tied a 4-year-old child to a post." Caleb exploded. "She could have died of cold, of fear. She could have been taken by anyone." Dennis was crying inconsolably now. I know I'm a monster, but I couldn't take care of her anymore. I was drinking too much, yelling at her, and she was scared of me. Robert was taking mental notes. Mr. Fisher, you are confessing to child abandonment and endangerment. These are serious crimes. I just wanted the money to take care of her, to give her a better life. By lying to the authorities and pretending she was kidnapped? Caleb asked. The money would have solved everything. I could have paid the bills, stopped drinking, been a better father. Robert shook his head. Mr. Fisher, money obtained that way would never solve your problems. You would have had to live with the lie forever. Where is she? Dennis asked suddenly, raising his red eyes. Is Sophia okay? Is she scared? Does she hate me? Caleb hesitated before answering. She's well cared for, safe, but she's confused about why her father left her. Did she say anything about me? She said you cried a lot after her mother died, that you sometimes yelled, and that you were very sad yesterday when you left her. Dennis broke down completely. She's all I have left of Samantha. Her smile, her eyes. How could I have done this to her? Robert checked his watch. Mr. Fisher, you need to make an important decision right now. You can continue with this charade and face the criminal consequences, or you can confess everything and we can work together to find the best solution for Sophia. What? What would be the best solution? Caleb stepped closer to Dennis. Sophia needs stability, people who can care for her properly. You are clearly struggling with your own problems. You think I'm a terrible father. I think you're a broken man who made a desperate decision, Caleb said with more kindness. But that doesn't change the fact that Sophia needs protection. Dennis was silent for a long minute. Finally, he looked up and asked a question that surprised them both. Would you take care of her? At least until I can get myself together? The question hung in the air like a bomb about to explode, carrying with it the weight of a decision that would change the lives of everyone involved forever. Dennis's question echoed in the square like silent thunder. Caleb felt his heart race as he processed what he had just heard. A man who had abandoned his own daughter was now asking him to take responsibility for the child. You're asking me to take care of your daughter? Caleb asked. His voice filled with disbelief. Dennis nodded, unable to find the words. Tears continued to stream down his face as he struggled to articulate his thoughts. You don't understand. I can't do it anymore. After Samantha died, I became a different person. I drink every day. I yell at her for anything. I forget to feed her. Robert intervened with his professional voice. Mr. Fisher, are you suggesting a temporary transfer of guardianship? I don't know how it works legally, Dennis admitted. I just know my daughter deserves better than what I can offer right now. Caleb looked at Robert, seeking guidance. Is it possible to do this without a criminal case? Technically, yes. If he signs temporary guardianship papers and admits he's unfit to care for the child at the moment, we can formalize a legal transfer. Dennis looked up with a spark of hope. Does that mean I wouldn't lose her forever? It means you would have to prove you've rehabilitated yourself before regaining custody, Robert explained. Treatment for alcoholism, a stable job, suitable housing. I would do all of it, anything to have my daughter back one day. Caleb felt a whirlwind of emotions. Since finding Sophia, something inside him had awakened. The responsibility of caring for her had brought purpose to his empty life, but officially accepting that responsibility was a huge step. I need to talk to my sister-in-law before I make any decisions, Caleb said. Of course, Dennis agreed quickly. But please, can I see her just for a few minutes? I promise I won't scare her. Robert and Caleb exchanged looks. Not today, Caleb decided. She's just starting to feel safe. Seeing you now might confuse her even more. Dennis nodded sadly. You're right. I ruined everything. After Dennis left, promising to return the next day to discuss the legal aspects, Caleb and Robert walked in silence to the car. Caleb, do you understand what you're considering? Robert asked. Caring for a traumatized 4-year-old is an enormous responsibility. I know, but Robert, these 3 days with her have been the first time I felt alive since I lost Leah. And your sister-in-law, how does she feel about this? I think she's grown as attached to Sophia as I have. When they arrived at the house, they found a scene that confirmed Caleb's words. Valerie and Sophia were in the yard, the girl sitting on the older woman's lap, listening intently as Valerie read from a children's storybook she had bought that morning. And so the princess discovered she didn't need a prince to be happy, Valerie read in a soft voice. She just needed people who truly loved her. Sophia looked up and saw Caleb approaching. Mr. Caleb, Grandma Val told me the story of a princess who found a new family. Valerie looked up and immediately noticed the tension on Caleb's face. Did everything go okay? I need to talk to you in private, he said, making a discreet gesture. Valerie took Sophia inside, put on a cartoon, and returned to the yard, where Caleb was waiting with a grave expression. What happened? She asked. Caleb told her everything, Dennis's confession, the inheritance situation, and finally, the man's desperate plea for them to take care of Sophia. Valerie was silent for several minutes, processing the information. So her father deliberately put her in danger for money. Yes, and now he's asking us to take custody of her. And you? What do you want to do? Caleb hesitated. Val, I want to take care of her. I know it sounds crazy, but these past few days have made me realize how much I missed having someone to protect. Valerie smiled sadly. Caleb, I've spent my whole life wanting to be a mother. Caring for Sophia has given me a joy I thought I'd never feel. So you agree? I do, but we need to be realistic about the challenges. A child who has gone through trauma needs special care. Can we afford it? Your factory is recovering, and I have my savings. It wouldn't be a problem. At that moment, Sophia appeared at the kitchen door. Are you guys talking about me? Caleb knelt to her level. We're talking about grown-up things, little one. Is it about my daddy? Is he coming to get me? The question broke Caleb's heart. How could he explain to a 4-year-old that her father had deliberately abandoned her? Sophia, your daddy is going through some very difficult problems right now. He can't take care of you the way you deserve. The girl's eyes filled with tears. Is it because I was a bad girl? No, Valerie said quickly, kneeling beside Caleb. You are a wonderful girl. Your daddy's problems have nothing to do with you. So am I going to live with you? Caleb looked at Valerie, who nodded almost imperceptibly. If you want to, you can stay with us for a very long time. Sophia jumped with joy and hugged them both at the same time. I do. You're the best family in the world. That night, after Sophia fell asleep, Caleb called Robert to confirm they wanted to proceed with the guardianship transfer. Robert, we've decided. We want to take care of Sophia. Are you sure? Once you take custody, it's a serious legal commitment. I'm sure. Then tomorrow we'll make it official. But Caleb, there's something you need to know. I did some research on the inheritance Dennis mentioned. And the inheritance is real, but the conditions are more complicated than he said. The money can only be used for Sophia's direct benefit, education, health, housing. And there's a clause that says if Dennis is deemed an unfit parent, the administration of the inheritance can be transferred to the child's legal guardian. Caleb felt a chill. What does that mean? It means that if you take custody and prove you can provide a better home for Sophia, A judge could grant you permanent custody, even against Dennis's wishes. And you think that could happen? With a history of abandonment and alcoholism, it's very likely. Caleb fell silent, absorbing the information. In less than a week, his life had completely changed. From a lonely man who was just existing, he was becoming the father of a traumatized child. Robert, is there anything else I need to know? Just one thing. Tomorrow, when Dennis comes to sign the papers, he might change his mind. Desperate men sometimes make impulsive decisions. In the Evergreen Hills district, Dennis walked through the empty rooms of his house, looking at the photographs of Samantha and Sophia scattered on the shelves. The house that was once full of laughter now echoed only with his heavy breathing and lonely footsteps. He picked up a photo of Sophia smiling on Samantha's lap and pressed it to his chest. Samantha, am I doing the right thing? Or am I being a coward one more time? The silence of the house was his only answer. Dennis knew that the next day he would make the most difficult decision of his life, and that, regardless of what he chose, nothing would ever be the same again. The morning of the fourth day dawned overcast, as if the sky itself anticipated the difficulties ahead. Caleb woke before his alarm, tormented by confusing dreams where Sophia slipped through his hands every time he tried to protect her. He found the girl already awake in the kitchen, sitting at the table with a piece of paper where she was drawing with colored pencils Valerie had brought the day before. The drawing showed 3 figures holding hands in front of a house: a tall man, a woman with gray hair, and a small girl. "Good morning, little one. What a beautiful drawing." "It's our new family, Mr. Caleb," she said cheerfully. "You, me, and Grandma Val." Caleb felt a tightness in his chest. The naturalness with which Sophia had accepted them as her family contrasted painfully with the legal complexity they would face that day. "Sophia, some important things are going to happen today. Some different people are going to come here to talk with us." "Are they bad people?" "No, they're people who want to make sure you're safe and happy." At 10 in the morning, Robert arrived accompanied by a social worker, Ms. Marcia Silver, a middle-aged woman with a serious but kind expression. "Mr. Morgan," she said after the introductions, "I need to assess the living conditions and speak with the child for my report." While Ms. Silver examined the house and asked Sophia questions, Caleb and Robert waited anxiously in the living room. The girl answered the questions with childish sincerity, telling them about the cookies she made with Grandma Val and how safe she felt in her new home. "She seems well adjusted," Ms. Silver commented after their talk. "But I need you to understand that this process can be complicated. The biological father still has legal rights." "Even after abandoning the child?" Caleb asked. "Even so. He will either have to voluntarily relinquish custody or be deemed unfit by a judge." At 2 in the afternoon, Dennis arrived punctually, but his appearance shocked everyone present. He had lost visible weight since the previous day, his clothes were wrinkled, and his red eyes indicated a sleepless night. "Where's Sophia?" was the first thing he asked. "She's in the yard with Valerie," Caleb replied. "Do you want to see her?" Dennis hesitated, clearly fighting his emotions. I don't know if I can." Robert laid the documents on the living room table. "Mr. Fisher, these are the temporary guardianship transfer papers. If you sign, you are officially handing over legal responsibility for your daughter to Mr. Morgan for an initial period of 6 months. Dennis took the papers with trembling hands. 6 months? Will that be enough for me to get my life together? "That depends entirely on you," Ms. Silver said. "You'll need to prove you've undergone treatment for alcoholism, secured stable employment, and have adequate housing. And if I can't, then the custody could become permanent," Robert answered honestly. At that moment, Sophia's voice echoed from the yard. Grandma Val, look how high the birdie is flying, just like Mommy said the angels fly. Dennis closed his eyes and tears began to roll down his face. She's happy here. She is, Caleb confirmed. Yesterday she told me she feels safe for the first time since her mother died. Samantha would be furious with me if she knew what I did, Dennis whispered. She always said Sophia was our greatest treasure. Miss Silver leaned forward. Mr. Fisher, if you truly love your daughter, you need to make the decision that's best for her, not for you. Dennis remained silent for a long minute, staring at the papers. Finally, he looked up at Caleb. Can I ask you a personal question? Of course. Why do you want to take care of her? You barely know her. Caleb thought carefully before answering. Because when I found her tied to that post, I saw a child who needed protection. And in the last few days, caring for her has given me a purpose I haven't felt in years. And your sister-in-law? Valerie always wanted to be a mother. Sophia has brought joy into her life too. Dennis nodded slowly. Will you let me visit her sometimes? Robert consulted the papers. We can include a supervised visitation clause, if you'd like. I do. Even if she grows up hating me for what I did, I want to be able to watch her grow. Finally, Dennis picked up the pen and began to sign the documents. His hand trembled so much he had to stop several times to compose himself. Done, he said, placing the pen on the table. I'm officially no longer responsible for my daughter. Everyone remained silent, feeling the weight of the moment. Ms. Silver collected the papers and checked the signatures. The documents are in order. From this moment on, Mr. Morgan, you are the legal guardian of Sophia Fisher. Caleb felt as if the entire world had shifted at that moment. Suddenly, he was a father. Can I say goodbye to her? Dennis asked in a broken voice. Caleb nodded and called Sophia in from the yard. The girl ran in but stopped abruptly when she saw Dennis sitting in the living room. Daddy, she whispered, confused. Dennis knelt on the floor and held out his arms. Sophia hesitated for a moment before running to him. My little princess, he said, hugging her tightly. Daddy came to say goodbye. Are you going away again? I am, my love, but this time is different. You're going to stay here with Mr. Caleb and Grandma Val, who will take very good care of you. For how long? Dennis struggled to keep his voice steady. For a very long time, Princess. Is it because you're still really sad about Mommy? It is, my love. Daddy is very sad and needs to learn how to get better. Sophia touched Dennis's face with her small hands. When you get better, can we play again? We can, my love. Daddy promises he'll try to get better. Okay then, she said, with the simple acceptance of children. But Mr. Caleb is going to take good care of me. I know he will, Princess. He's a very good man. Dennis kissed Sophia's forehead and hugged her one more time before standing up. Take good care of her, he said to Caleb, his voice barely audible. I promise I will, Caleb replied solemnly. After Dennis left, Sophia was quiet for a few minutes, processing what had happened. Finally, she looked at Caleb and asked, Are you my new daddy now? Caleb knelt beside her. If you want me to be. And is Grandma Val going to be my new grandma? If she agrees. Sophia smiled and hugged Caleb. Then I have a new family now. That night, after Sophia fell asleep, Caleb sat on his porch and looked at the stars. In less than a week, his life had changed completely. Now he was the father of a 4-year-old girl who had suffered trauma, but was still capable of love and trust. Valerie sat down beside him. How do you feel? Scared, he admitted, and at the same time, more whole than I've felt in years. It's going to be hard. Raising a child always is. I know, but Val, when I look at her, I see hope. After so long of just existing, I finally have a reason to want to be better. She's changed my life too, Valerie confessed. I never thought that at 52 I'd find out what it's like to be a grandmother. As they talked, neither of them knew that in the coming months they would face challenges that would test not only their determination, but also the love they had developed for Sophia, and that the greatest test was yet to come, when they discovered secrets about Samantha's inheritance that would change everything once again. 3 months had passed since Sophia officially became part of Caleb's family. Autumn had arrived in Oakbridge, bringing with it a routine that, despite its challenges, had filled the house with life again. Sophia now attended a preschool in the neighborhood, where she quickly stood out for her intelligence and artistic talent. Her drawings had evolved from simple birds to complex landscapes that impressed her teachers. However, the nightmares still visited her some nights when she would wake up screaming for her mother. On that May morning, Caleb was awakened not by his alarm, but by Sophia's sobs coming from the next room. He quickly ran to her and found her sitting up in bed, hugging the porcelain doll that had become her constant companion. "What is it, princess? A nightmare again?" "I dreamed Mommy was calling me, but I couldn't get to her," Sophia said between tears. "And Daddy was there too, but he was really mad at me." Caleb sat on the bed and pulled her into his lap. Over the past few months, he had learned that these episodes were part of the girl's healing process. Remember what the therapist said? The bad dreams will get better with time. But what if I forget Mommy's face? You won't forget. We have the photographs, and Mommy will always live in your heart. Sophia snuggled against Caleb's chest. "Mr. Caleb, you'll never leave me like Daddy did, will you?" The question still broke his heart every time she asked it. "Never, my love. I promise I will always be here for you." That morning, after dropping Sophia off at school, Caleb received an urgent call from Robert. The lawyer sounded agitated. "Caleb, I need you to come to my office now. I've received important information about Samantha's inheritance." "What kind of information?" "It's better if we talk in person, and bring Valerie. She needs to know this too." An hour later, Caleb and Valerie were sitting in Robert's office, where a stack of documents lay on the table. "What do you know about Samantha Fisher?" Robert asked. "Only that she was Sophia's mother and died in an accident," Caleb replied. "Well, I found out she was much more than that." Robert opened a folder. "Samantha was the heiress of a very wealthy family from Chicago. When she married Dennis, she was disowned by her parents for marrying below her social standing." Valerie frowned. "And what's the significance of that?" 2 years before she died, Samantha's parents passed away in a plane crash. As she was the only child, she inherited the entire family fortune, estimated at $15 million. Caleb nearly choked. 15 million? Exactly. But here's the interesting part. Samantha never told Dennis any of this. She created the trust fund in Sophia's name and set very specific conditions for the money to be accessed. "What conditions?" Valerie asked. Robert consulted the documents. "The money can only be used for Sophia until she turns 18. And there's a clause that states if Dennis is deemed an unfit parent, the administration of the inheritance must pass to the child's legal guardian." Caleb felt a knot in his stomach. "That means that you are now the administrator of $15 million intended for Sophia's care." Silence filled the room. Valerie was the first to find her voice. "Does Dennis know about this?" "Apparently not. The lawyer who handled Samantha's family inheritance only contacted me because the guardianship transfer was officially registered." Caleb ran his hands over his face, trying to process the information. "Robert, this changes everything. If Dennis finds out there's this much money involved, He might try to reverse the guardianship transfer, the lawyer completed. That's why we need to be very careful about how we handle this information. What do you suggest? First, you need to decide if you want to take on this responsibility. Administering an inheritance of this magnitude is not simple. Valerie leaned forward. The money is Sophia's, right? Not ours. Correct. You would just be the administrators until she comes of age. Caleb thought of the little girl who had become the center of his life. If this means she will have a financially secure future, then we want to take on this responsibility. Very well. Then we'll keep this confidential for now. I'll take care of all the legal paperwork. That afternoon, when Caleb went to pick up Sophia from school, her teacher, Mrs. Carmen, asked to speak with him. Mr. Morgan, I've noticed that Sophia is an exceptionally talented child. Her drawings are impressive for her age. She's always loved to draw, Caleb replied with pride. More than that, yesterday she drew the facade of the main church with architectural details that even impressed me. 4-year-olds don't usually have that kind of spatial awareness. What are you suggesting? That maybe she would benefit from specialized art classes? There's a studio here in Oakbridge that works with gifted children. Caleb smiled. With Sophia's inheritance, he could provide any kind of specialized education she needed. I'll consider the idea. That night at dinner, Sophia asked a question that caught everyone by surprise. Mr. Caleb, why do some kids at school have so much money and others don't? Valerie stopped eating. Why are you thinking about that, sweetie? Because Sophia in my class said her dad bought a new car, but Julia said her mom doesn't have money to buy school supplies. Caleb chose his words carefully. Families are different, Princess. Some have more money, others have less. The important thing is that people help each other. And us? Are we rich or poor? We have enough to live well and take care of you, Valerie answered. So can we help Julia? Caleb exchanged a meaningful look with Valerie. Sophia's natural generosity touched him deeply. We can talk to her teacher about that. Later, after Sophia went to bed, Caleb and Valerie were talking on the porch when the phone rang. It was Robert, and his voice sounded tense. Caleb, we have a problem. Dennis showed up at my office this afternoon asking about Samantha's inheritance. How did he find out? Apparently, the old family lawyer tried to contact him as well. Dennis is suspicious that there's more money involved than he thought. Caleb's stomach clenched. What does he want? He wants a meeting. Tomorrow. He said he needs to discuss financial matters related to his daughter. And now? Now we face the situation. But Caleb, you need to be prepared. If Dennis finds out about the 15 million, he might try anything to reverse the custody. Even after abandoning his daughter. 15 million makes people do unthinkable things. That night, Caleb barely slept. He stared at the ceiling, thinking about how to protect Sophia from the greed that the money might awaken in her biological father. The girl who had brought light into his life was now at the center of a battle he didn't even know existed. In the next room, Sophia slept peacefully, hugging her doll, unaware that her life was about to be shaken once more. In her dreams, she flew like the bird she loved to draw, free and safe, protected by people who loved her. But when the sun rose, the reality of a multi-million-dollar inheritance and a desperate father would threaten to destroy the peace she had found in recent months. Across town, Dennis spent the night awake, calculating possibilities. The conversation with the inheritance lawyer had confirmed his suspicions. Samantha had hidden a fortune from him. And now that fortune was in the hands of strangers who were caring for his daughter. For the first time since signing the guardianship transfer, Dennis began to wonder if he hadn't made the biggest mistake of his life. The meeting was set for 2 in the afternoon at Robert's office, but Dennis arrived an hour early. Caleb saw him through the window, pacing nervously on the sidewalk, clearly rehearsing what he would say. In the last 3 months, Dennis had changed physically. He seemed thinner, more haggard, but his eyes held a determination that wasn't there the day he signed the transfer papers. "He looks different," observed Valerie, who had insisted on accompanying Caleb. "He does, and that worries me." When they finally met in Robert's office, the tension was palpable. Dennis greeted everyone formally, but his eyes shone with a disturbing intensity. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," he began, sitting rigidly in his chair. "I need to discuss some matters concerning my daughter." Robert took control of the conversation. "Mr. Fisher, I understand you have questions about financial matters. They're not questions, they're certainties." Dennis took a folder from his bag. "I hired my own lawyer to investigate Samantha's inheritance. I discovered some very interesting things." Caleb's heart sped up. "What kind of things?" "That my wife hid a $15 million fortune from me, and that you now have control over that money." The silence that followed was deafening. Robert was the first to compose himself. "Mr. Fisher, that money belongs to Sophia, not to us." "But you're the administrators. You decide how the money is used." "For her benefit," Valerie emphasized. "Education, health, proper housing." Dennis laughed bitterly. "Do you really think I'm going to believe that? $15 million, and you're going to use it all for the good of the child?" "That's exactly right," Caleb said, keeping his voice firm. "Dennis, we didn't know about this inheritance when we took custody of Sophia. We did it because she needed care. How convenient to find out later, don't you think?" Robert intervened. "Mr. Fisher, if you have an accusation to make, you need proof." Dennis opened his folder and spread documents across the table. "Here's the proof. You took custody of a child who is the heir to millions. That's no coincidence." Caleb felt anger rising in his chest. "Are you suggesting we planned all this? That we deliberately found your daughter tied to a post to steal her money? I'm saying that now that you've found out about the money, you won't want to give her back." "Dennis," Valerie said in a controlled voice, "you abandoned your daughter. You put her in mortal danger for money. And now you want her back because you found out there's more money involved?" "I made a mistake," Dennis admitted, but his voice lacked the regret of months ago. "I was desperate. But now I understand the whole situation." "Understand what?" Robert asked. "That Samantha created this trust fund to protect our daughter from me. She knew I would eventually find out about the money and wanted to ensure it was used properly." Caleb was surprised by Dennis's lucidity. "If you understand that, why are you here?" "Because now I've got myself together. I've stopped drinking. I got a job. I'm in therapy. I can be the father Sophia deserves." Robert consulted his papers. "Mr. Fisher, you have the right to try to reverse the guardianship transfer, but that would require proving you have better conditions to care for Sophia than her current guardians. And I do." Dennis pulled more documents from the folder. "Here is my sobriety certificate, proof of employment, and psychological evaluations showing I am fit to be a father again." Valerie studied the documents. "This is impressive, Dennis. I'm glad you've recovered. Thank you. But now I want my daughter back." Caleb felt as if the floor was opening up beneath his feet. "Dennis, Sophia is well adjusted with us. She's happy, doing well in school. And she would be even better with her real father." "The real father who tied her to a post?" Dennis looked down. "That will haunt me for the rest of my life. But I can't change the past. I can only try to be better from now on." At that moment, the office door opened, and Ms. Silver, the social worker, entered accompanied by someone no one expected, Sophia. "Sorry for the interruption, Ms. Silver said, but there was an incident at school. Sophia had an anxiety attack when she heard her father was in town." Sophia ran straight into Caleb's arms, completely ignoring Dennis. "Mr. Caleb, the teacher said Daddy came to get me. I don't want to go." Dennis felt as if he'd been punched in the stomach. "Sophia, my love, Daddy just wants to talk." The girl turned to look at him, and for a moment, everyone saw the 4-year-old child struggling with emotions too complex for her age. "Daddy, you're not going to leave me at the post again, are you?" The question broke the hearts of everyone present. Dennis knelt on the floor, tears streaming down his face. "Never again, Princess. Daddy promises he'll never do that again." "But I like living with Mr. Caleb and Grandma Val. They make cookies with me and let me draw. I can make cookies with you, too." Sophia looked at Dennis with the frightening wisdom of children who have matured too soon. "Daddy, are you sad again?" "No, my love. Daddy is better now." "Then why do you want to take me away from my new family?" Miss Silver intervened gently. "Sophia, what would you like to happen?" The girl looked at all the adults in the room before answering. "I want Daddy to visit us at home, but I want to keep living with Mr. Caleb." The silence that followed was profound. Finally, Robert spoke. "Mr. Fisher, perhaps there's a solution that benefits everyone." "What solution?" "Shared custody. Sophia continues to live with Caleb and Valerie, but you have expanded visitation rights. Weekends, holidays." Dennis considered the proposal. "And the financial issue?" "The money continues to be managed by the current legal guardians, but with judicial oversight and regular reports on how it's being used." Caleb looked at Sophia, who had settled into his lap. "What do you think, Princess? Would you like to see Daddy on the weekends?" "If he promises he won't take me away." Dennis approached slowly and gently touched his daughter's face. "Daddy promises, my love. You can stay with your new family, and Daddy will always come to visit you. And you'll get to know Grandma Val properly. She makes the best cookies in the world." Valerie was moved. "Of course, dear. Your Daddy can come make cookies with us." 2 months later, the new routine was established. Dennis visited Sophia every Saturday, participating in family activities that included drawing sessions, baking, and trips to the park. He had truly changed, and his relationship with his daughter was gradually rebuilding. Sophia's inheritance was placed in an educational fund that would pay for her specialized art education, therapies when needed, and secure her financial future. Caleb and Valerie used only what was necessary for her basic needs, documenting every expense. On that July Saturday, Caleb watched from a distance as Dennis helped Sophia paint a picture in the yard. Valerie approached him. "Do you regret anything? Finding her at that post? Never. And sharing her with Dennis?" Caleb smiled, watching Sophia laugh as she painted. "Val, I've discovered that love doesn't diminish when it's shared. She now has 3 people who love her unconditionally instead of 2. And Dennis really has changed." "Yes." Therapy helped him understand that abandoning Sophia was the result of his own untreated pain. Now he's dealing with it in a healthy way. At that moment, Sophia ran up to them, holding her painting. "Look, I made a drawing of our family." The painting showed 5 smiling figures holding hands: Caleb, Valerie, Sophia, Dennis, and a female figure with wings. "Who's the person with wings?" Valerie asked. "That's Mommy. She's watching over all of us from heaven." Caleb hugged Sophia, his heart filled with a happiness he never imagined possible again. "It's the most beautiful drawing you've ever made. A princess. It's because now I know everyone loves me," she said simply, "and love makes everything more beautiful." In that golden afternoon, as they all prepared dinner together, Caleb realized his life had found a balance he didn't know he was looking for. Sophia had the security of a stable family, the love of a father who had redeemed himself, and a future financially secured by the foresight of a mother who loved her even after she was gone. And he, who had spent 2 years just existing, now lived fully, knowing that each day brought the opportunity to protect and love a child who had turned his empty house into a home filled with laughter, colorful drawings, and realized dreams. Little Sophia, who was once abandoned at a post in the rain, now fell asleep every night secure in the knowledge that she was loved by people who would never leave her. And in her dreams, she flew like the birds she loved to draw, free and protected, carrying with her the certainty that she had found her place in the world. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you stories every day that will brighten your life. Let me know what you thought of this one in the comments with a rating from 0 to 10. Thank you so much for listening.